My name is Nathan Lim, and welcome to the Sports Junkyard. Joining me today in the Junkyard is double Paralympic gold medalist skier Adam Hall. Adam Hall has won multiple World Championship medals, competed at 4 Winter Paralympic Games, been awarded the prestigious Whang Youn Dai Award in Korea, a Halberg in 2019, and has even been made a member of the New Zealand Order of Merit by Her Majesty The Queen. In this interview, Adam and I chat about how he rose from being bullied for his disability during school to conquer the competitive world of alpine skiing. This is what ensued on the slopes of Vancouver in the Paralympic Final 2010.
And Adam Hall from Auckland is on his way. And Hall has got a couple of seconds to play with here. Is he on his way to a gold medal? Oh no! Oh no, Adam Hall has probably slid out of contention right there. But he still wins it! Unbelievable! Adam Hall has done it!
So my name is Adam Hall. I was born with a physical disability called spina bifida, which is the most common neural tube defect in the world, where really early on during pregnancy, the back, the nerves and the spine don't fully develop and close over. So in spina bifida in Latin means split spine. And so depending on that level of the opening of the back depends, I guess, on the level of function that you have. So mine's reasonably low, so hence I'm able to, waddle around with an unordinary gait, so to speak. A lot of percentage of people born with a disability are in wheelchairs, and during the time that I was born, there was quite a number of children or babies born with spina bifida within a reasonably small radius of where I grew up and was brought up. So I was brought up and lucky and fortunate enough to be brought up in a pretty rural environment, starting off the first kind of 5 or 6 years of my life, a little country town, if you like, a little rural town of Outram, just outside of Dunedin, reasonably close to Dunedin Airport, and attended Outram School out there. And then at about the age of 6 or so, relocated, or not relocated, but ended up back on the family farm, where it's a generational dairy farm that my dad was brought up and raised on. And so having that lifestyle of spending, my whole life, in essence, growing up on a rural environment, on a dairy farm, open space, having the ability to get out and about and push the limits and having plenty of room to fail at things and stuff up a lot of things was, a really, I guess, fortunate way of an opportunity of growing up. And I'm one of 2 children, so I have a younger sister who's 4 years younger, and she was born with, no issues at all. So it's not a genetic thing, it's just a random thing that, obviously there's some research out there about folic acid and different things, but besides that, there's no real reasoning behind it. And so I was lucky enough in the sense that growing up and being brought up and raised on a farm environment, that I wasn't treated any different to anybody else. What I call kind of cotton wool syndrome. I was treated just like anybody else. I was disciplined just like anybody else. In those days, you were disciplined in ways which children aren't disciplined today. So I had the old wooden spoon and was disciplined with the strap and all sorts of different things, and learned pretty early on that I was not really going to go to school for academic purposes, more for sport. So enjoyed sport, enjoyed the lunchtimes and hanging out with mates. Was introduced to cricket at a pretty young age, about the age of 6. And that lasted right up until my high school years. I went to secondary school at Torrey College, so not far from Outram, and played school right up into the school team, and then the kind of the local area team as well, club team. And also at a young age, about the same time as I was introduced to cricket or found the passion for cricket, I was introduced to skiing. And through a family friend or a friend of my mum's at the time, who she had a child, a son with the same disability, and he was skiing, doing these ski trips up to the mountains in central Otago, and suggested that perhaps I gave it a go. And so I gave that a go, and yeah, it was a bit of a struggle at the beginning for a number of years. And after about 10 years of kind of struggling and fighting through that, well, actually only initially 3 years of struggling, I then changed to snowboarding. And that was where, for me, I found the independence that I was looking for, and things became a lot easier compared to skiing, and especially from an earlier age. And then for me, I guess, growing up, milking cows, driving tractors, from a pretty early age, kind of helped me overcome some of those challenges along the way. Self-belief, self-discipline, patience, trusting yourself, and just not kind of giving up if you see something, follow through on that task and you complete it. And so, yeah, skied for 3 years, went on to then snowboard. Snowboarding wasn't yet a Paralympic sport, but still gave me that independence and then that drive to start having a bit of, I guess, having a dream and some goal settings towards that, which would be, wanting to represent New Zealand at the highest level possible, to be the Paralympics. And at that stage, snowboarding wasn't yet a Paralympic sport. So later on down the track, I then had to change back to skiing to be able to pursue that. And it was pretty daunting at the beginning to do that. I managed to change back, and once I got the correct equipment and started training and having a good plan in place, things kind of started to fall in place, and I guess started spending a little less time on the farm, more time having the opportunity to travel the world chasing winters to try and pursue those dreams and goals. So, as I went through my high school years, those cricket competition weekends and summers started to reduce and drop, and it got to a point where my last summer in about 2004 decided to play my last couple of games before heading over to the Northern Hemisphere to start competing to try and qualify for the 2006 games.
Okay, so if throughout your childhood, obviously you had this intense passion for sport. You weren't put off playing sport by your disability at all. What do you think was, obviously you had this difference to the rest of the kids who were playing. What do you think kept you motivated to keep going and keep trying to compete?
I think just from that early age and having that passion for sport, like it just straight away clicked. Like in sport, there was such a vast variety of different things that I could try and do. I wasn't just limited to one thing. So sure, there was some things that I couldn't participate in, but for the most part, I was able to try and adapt and adjust, and also was lucky enough to go through a pretty supportive rural upbringing, also through having supportive resources at schools in regards to teachers and things like that, where I wasn't just thrown in the library. I was, there was brainstorming, it was coming up with ways and ideas to be able to participate in anything and everything. And if we had to change some rules up or whatever, then that was great. And, would attend all the athletics days, and, sure, I wouldn't run in the 400 or 800 meters, but I'd do all the throwing events and jumping events. And I think for me, during those early years as well, and this is quite a natural thing as well, is quite a lot of bullying, and I think it's quite natural when children see at a young age, they see something different. And with my disability, it's quite visible, so it's quite noticeable. And so if somebody at a young age, children, they see something noticeably different, that's all of a sudden alarm bells and comments kind of thrown around and whatnot. And I didn't react to bullying necessarily in the correct ways at the beginning. And it took quite a while to, I guess, overcome those challenges, spending some time in principal's offices and on the front step of the principal's office and whatnot. And so got to a point where I realized if I was going to keep going down that track, that, I was not going to end up in such a good place, perhaps, if I continued to keep being physical and whatnot. And, eventually I'd get my butt kicked as well, depending on who it was that was trying to target me and if I wanted to retaliate or not. Sport is a very powerful thing, especially in the adaptive world, I believe. It's something that is therapeutic alongside changing lives and perspective on disability. And it's good for anybody, really. I mean, it's also, sport on courts keeps kids out of courts on the weekend, so to speak.
So you went through
your school, you overcame the bullying, you found a passion for snowboarding, and eventually you went back to skiing. At
Mhm.
what point did you start to realize that you could be really good?
Yeah, so I guess so when I first started, I guess doing these ski trips when I was skiing from the period of age 6 to 9, it was quite a struggle. So I go along every weekend, and wasn't very independent. Would fall over quite a lot, and it was my dad actually that spent a bit of time away from the farm to try and get me up and going and help me a bit more.
Mm.
And realized that the mountain was a bit bigger and you could go around the backside of the mountain, and rather than just going up and down this one run where I'd fall over quite a lot. So after 3 years of struggling with that, through a friend at the time who was a volunteer who come up and help. So quite a lot of phys ed students would come up and volunteer and help out with the van loads of children that would come up. And so he was a snowboarder, and he suggested that perhaps I gave snowboarding a go. And then he went on to become an instructor up in the mountains. And so then I gave it a go when I was 9, and from that point onwards, really, that was when I found that independence and that drive to want to be the best that I absolutely possibly could. And that was just, I guess, a direct influence from finding that freedom and independence that I was looking for, something that I was good at amongst my peers and could thrive at. So I thought to myself and said to others, all right, I think I could be pretty good at this. Let's see how far we can go. I want to, first of all, the question was how far can you go? What's the limit kind of thing? What are we going to aim for? And said that I think it was a video when I was about 9 saying that, I wanted to one day represent New Zealand, the Paralympics, and get faster and faster.
So obviously after discovering skiing, you sort of fostered this dream throughout your childhood. Can you talk us through how your professional career sort of got started?
So after getting on the skis and whatnot, I then went through to my first campaign in Torino in Italy in 2006. And so then having this big dream and goal of representing New Zealand, getting on the team, which I then did, I was then thinking to myself, right, I want to go and I want to win all these medals, which in hindsight wasn't realistic because I was competing against athletes that had been to 4 or 5 games, had 15, 20 years of experience, a similar position I'm in now. So I came back from that event in what we call in ski racing lingo DFL, dead last. So I wasn't, as successful as what I wanted to do. And so, for me, it was a learning curve. It was learning from experience, seeing what my competitors were doing.
What do you see as I'm pretty sure I know where you're going to go with this, but what do you see as the pinnacle of your career? Can you talk me through that?
Yeah, I guess there's been multiple, but obviously, winning the World Cups, winning Paralympic gold medals. I guess the biggest thing for me, I guess after an 8-year period was, becoming a double Paralympic champion with an 8-year gap in between. That was quite significant, I think, being able to show that, okay, you kind of have an average campaign, but to bounce back and to rebuild everything from the foundation up and even rebuild the foundation involved a lot of trust and belief and having all my cards in around everyone around me and myself. And then there's been things outside of those results as well, like having the recognition of the Whang Youn Dai award in Korea as well was something that was pretty spectacular. And
What was that?
something that was an award that is awarded to one female and one male athlete every Paralympic Games, so every 2 years, one winter, one summer. And that's been going on for the last 30 years since it was introduced. So that was quite special as well because it started in Seoul, in Korea, 30 years ago, and then to come all the way around and then to be, in Korea at the last Paralympic Games and to receive it there was quite extraordinary. It's awarded to somebody who best exemplifies the spirit of the Games, what it stands for, what it means, and he continues to strive to do that within our own community and also throughout, the world by representing what we're trying to do within the sport. So that was a pretty cool, experience. It's up there with being on top of an Olympic podium for sure. And then, early on in the career, just after Vancouver, getting a letter as well from Her Majesty The Queen with an award with the
Wow.
NNZM for Order of Merit for Services to Sport. So that was something that was a credit to, not just myself, but everybody else around me and the whole country, really. Like I say this all the time, that even though it's an individual sport, there's so much of a team that's involved in what I do. And for some odd reason, I'm just the one that's always often put up there in front to represent everyone and take the credit.
Wow. And obviously you've had a little, because of this coronavirus thing, we're having a little break from competitions and stuff. How far are you going to take this?
I've kind of always had an approach where I just take everything season by season. I guess through experiences that I've had within my life, you can go on and you can plan for so long and you can plan so long out, and then so many things can happen. They can happen tomorrow, next week. Like, you just never know. One example of that is this virus. So you kind of, you have your plans, you haven't planned out, but you just got to take each day as it comes and make sure that you're ticking each box as you go along, and see where you end up, really. I guess through different experiences in my life that I've learned to, like, it's important to have long-term plans, but also you got to be careful because you never know what's going to happen and what's going to be around the corner. And a prime example of that is through the current times that we're living through with this virus that came out of nowhere. So you have to be prepared for things like that and be open and be flexible and being able to adapt, but also, having that plan in place. And I think there was that good quote, an idiot with a plan can beat a genius without a plan. So I think that kind of hit home pretty cool. It's always important to have a plan no matter what, but being able to adapt and adjust those plans to whatever scenario or situation, so that sometimes you can get stuck in your ways and plans and not wanting to change them. So we're just always reevaluating and just see where we go. I mean, we've been in interesting times in the last few cycles where, if we look back in the history, the last best Winter Games was probably condition-wise Torino, my first campaign. Vancouver was pretty average, just weather-wise, some rain, pretty warm. Sochi was not good. It was a summer resort. They had temperatures that were warmer than the London Olympics. And then we had similar conditions in Korea, where some of our competition days were 20 plus degrees Celsius, and they're using tons and tons of salt. The next ones are in Beijing in China. And obviously that's pretty close by to where this pandemic has originated from. So, but yeah, interesting times. Looking forward to how that is all going to pan out. Obviously, of recent times, Tokyo has been pushed back. So, yeah, who knows what's going to happen. So, yeah, as I said, it's important to have plans, and we work in 4-year cycles and kind of work our way backwards, but then making sure that we're able to always reassess those plans and adjust as needed.
If there was someone coming up who also had a disability like you, who loved sport, who wanted to be really good, but perhaps didn't have the confidence that you have to really go after it, what would you say to them?
I guess for me, I never really had that person to look up to when I was growing up with a disability as such. Like, I wanted to be like the athletes that had gone before me, but a lot of those athletes didn't really give back as much, and they didn't stick around and help out and mentor. So through what I do and through the actions of what I do and try to accomplish, I try and be that for others out there. So for anyone out there, I would say, like, everybody's different. We all have a disability as such. What is the disability? Like the way the word disability is perceived, and just to stick with something, find something that you're good at and just stick with it and never give up. Like, just believe in yourself just like anybody else would, and like, you can honestly surprise yourself. Like, you might think that you're not going to get there or you're not going to make it, but soon you'll build some confidence and things will just automatically start clicking, and you'll get some confidence and keep building on that. And then all of a sudden, you wake up one day and you just never know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think, being able to pass that on, like a lot of these things, you often have to work hard for, or you have to build into them. You're not born necessarily with them all. So it all depends on your background and the opportunities that you've had as well. So I think it's all about breaking down those barriers and making everything as accessible as possible to be able to pursue whatever dream. And it's like any athlete in any sport, they're going to find something that's suited to their body style or body type, whatever their strengths are, weaknesses are, and go and pursue that. And it's the same with anybody else, no matter what their abilities are. So it's about turning those disabilities into abilities and just going out there and pushing hard.
That was a really special interview with Adam Hall. Thank you so much for joining me in the Junkyard. Thank you so much for listening again, and I hope that this interview brought you some value. and that you'll join me in the next ones. See you for now.